Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. Welcome at EFSI press conference. I will briefly introduce our speakers, and I suggest that everyone does his presentation, and then the floor will be given to you. So our first speaker is Jean-François Lebrun. He is advisor at DG Employment, and he is in charge of personal and household services. Then I will present EFSI, which is the European Federation for Services to Individuals. And with Daphne Valsamis, we will present you the result of a study on why invest in employment. And then Mr. Farvac will present you the result of his studies on housework services in EU member states. So, Mr. Lebrun, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This study, financed by the European Federation for Services to Individuals, then not by the European Commission, gives interesting elements of debate on social investment. Traditionally, when we speak about social policy, we understand social expenses, social cost. However, we can see the social policy as an investment. In this regard, the Commissioner, Laszlo Andor, will present in the next weeks a communication called Towards Social Investment for Growth and Cohesion. Unemployment, and in particular, long-term unemployment, is an evil that we should fight. It's a strategy for the individual, but also for the society. Isn't it the time to transform expenses and loss of revenues into social investment, with the aim to contribute to give an answer for unsatisfied needs of our society? This study gives some facts and figures to feed this debate. We could always debate the methodology used as well as some facts or figures presented in the study. However, this study encourages another way of apprehending the debate on the cost of social policy. We should recognize that our society does not know how to respond appropriately to the need of a growing part of the population in the area of child care, care for dependent persons, and work-life balance. Can we take the black market as a reference point for such activities? It's the case for different member states today. This element will be also discussed during a conference organized today and tomorrow by the European Commission about personal and household services. This study will be one element presented during the conference, one element amongst more or less 20 other presentations. The conference will invite us to experience a cultural change. Why the image associated with these activities is so negative in terms of image de marque, working condition, etc. We must see this activity in the heart of our life, are as your parents, your children, and life space, etc., etc. We really discuss about one central element of our life. We can realize that public support to these activities is less costly than raw figures would seem to indicate. and that few activities bring such public policy efficiency. For example, little debt wage effect. We should take advantage of our capacity at European level to experiment and to exchange good practices to respond to citizen needs. But we must avoid also to identify these activities as a sector for long-term unemployed people. Another important element of the debate. Then, caution. Last sentence, please don't hesitate to attend the conference organized in the same building today and tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Then I will briefly present you the EFSI, so the European Federation for Services to Individuals. So we are the representative body to European institutions of federation and companies involved in the development of personal and household services. So to be clear, personal and household services are all services that contribute to the well-being of families and individuals at home. So it's childcare, long-term care, but also housework, gardening, ICT support, for example. So the context of the study is that in last April, the European Commission released a document in which it recognized the important job creation potential of the sectors. It was estimated at 5.5 million new jobs across Europe. And as it has been said by Mr. Lebrun, at present, the sector is dominated by informal work. So we need supporting measures to ensure the moving from the shadow to the formal economy. Those supporting measures are, for example, encouraging formal purchase through tax reduction, for example, but it's also supporting the supply that can be through VAT reduction. It's also simplifying procedures for hiring domestic workers. That has been done in France, for example, with vouchers, or it could be co-financing schemes. And in this debate, we were wondering, and we wanted to know, what is the cost or the potential loss of revenue of those supporting measures compared to the cost of an unemployed? So we mandated IDEA Consult to do the study. So Daphne.
Thank you. So on request of EFSI, IDEA Consult performed a study on the cost of unemployment. So we estimate the cost of unemployment in 6 EU member states, so Belgium, France, Germany, Spain, Sweden, and the United Kingdom. So in my presentation, I will briefly present the most important concepts of the study and the most important results. First of all, it's important to say that in the study we are interested in the financial cost of unemployment for the government and not in the costs of unemployment for the society or for an individual. It's a different concept. So the first question we asked ourselves when we started the study is what is the cost of unemployment? So in fact, some costs are rather obvious. So we know, everybody know that when a person becomes unemployed, this person will perceive unemployment benefits. And so these unemployment benefits are additional costs for the government. When a person is unemployed, the person will also be guided to find a new job, and mostly they are guided by public administration organizations. And so this is also additional cost for the government. And the payment of unemployment benefits and these guidance policies induce administrative costs for the responsible organizations. So these costs are rather obvious, but next to these costs, there are also some other costs. So this is the second part of my figure. So it is the potential loss of revenues for the state. So it's so that when a person becomes unemployed, she will receive unemployment benefits, but it is much lower than an average income of a worker. So this person will contribute less, so they will pay less social contributions and less taxations. So there is a loss of revenue for the state. This person, as they have less income, they will also consume less, and so they will pay less taxation on consumption. So all these aspects are defined as cost for the state. So we try to develop a model to estimate these costs. So we developed a model. This model is based on existing literature. We also developed this model in close cooperation with experts of the 6 countries. So it's adapted to the specificities of each country, but it is also possible to use it for other EU member states. It's also important to say that we used factual and harmonized data, so it's possible to compare the results between countries. So for example, we used data from Eurostat on the government expenditures for unemployed and from the OECD for the taxations and social contribution rates. Another important aspect is that we only use expenditures that are directly linked to unemployment. So for example, training policies or programs are not included in the model because some of them are also open for employees. So in fact, the model and the results are rather prudent and restrictive. So now some results. This table represents the result of a study. So it represents the average yearly costs of unemployed for the government. So the last row represents the cost, the average cost of one unemployed in the 6 country cases. So we see that there are large differences between countries, and of course it is due to the specificities of each country. We see that the average cost of unemployment varies between 18,000 euros in the UK and 90,000 euro in Spain to 33,000 euro in Belgium, which is the country with the highest cost of unemployment. Germany, France, and Spain are in a median position with a cost of unemployment varying between 25,000 euro and 28,000 euro. It's also interesting to say that when we look at the type of costs, it's that the most important cost is due to the loss of revenues for the state. In all countries except in Spain, it is the most important cost. Interesting also is when we look at the total public intervention, so we mean the unemployment benefits, the guidance cost and administrative cost, it is rather similar between countries, so it varies around 10,000 euros. The only exception is the UK, where this cost is much lower. So we see that, of course, there are large differences between countries, but the cost of unemployment is high in most of countries. To better understand our results, we also compared the cost of unemployment to the average salary cost in a country. The average salary cost is the cost of a worker for an employer. So it represents the salary, the contributions, and the taxations. So we did this just to compare it to the standard of living in a country. And when we do that, we see that in UK, the cost of unemployment is the lowest in absolute term, but also in relative term. So relative term compared to the average salary, it's only 59% of the average salary cost. And in Belgium and Germany, it is the highest in absolute and relative term, with an average a rate of 90%. Of course, these results depend on the specificities of each country. It depends on the level and the duration of unemployment benefits. It depends on the intensity of guidance policies. It depends also on the way the country finances its social contributions. So we have to keep all these aspects in mind when we compare the results between countries. Thank you.
Thank you. So now that we have the figures about the cost of unemployment, we can compare them to the cost of supporting measures. So, for example, in Belgium, France, and Sweden, where there is supporting measures for quite a few years now, we are able to say that in Belgium, whereas the unemployed cost 33,000 euros per year, a worker in the titre service cost 3,500 euros per year. As you can see, in France, it's 28,000 euros for an unemployed, and it's only 12,000 euros for a worker in the PHS sector. So within the EFSI, so the conclusion is that the cost of unemployment is higher for public finance than the cost of or the potential loss of revenue induced by state support to job creation. So we also want to stress that public support in the sector benefits the society as a whole, because it creates long-term and non-transferable jobs. It provides jobs opportunity to people with low qualification or no qualification. It enables women and family carers to return to the labor markets. It helps to conciliate professional and personal life, and it contributes to the social inclusion of workers, but also of the most dependent, that is to say, for example, the elderly who benefit from those services. Then EFSI invites member states to assess the potential demand and employment needs in the sector, to implement users' information device and tools, and finally to implement a fiscal incentive aiming at reducing informal work in the sector. Also, the EFSI call the European Commission to support the exchange of best practices, as it will, I hope, be done during this two-day conference. And to continue the debate on the issue, the EFSI will organize the 5th European Conference on Personal and Household Services at the end of this year. So, now, Nicolas, I'll leave you the floor.
Thank you. The study that I have coordinated for the European Commission is an overview of personal and household services in the EU, with a focus on housework activities, that is to say domestic services broadly. We have excluded care services like childcare, care for the older people from the scope of the study. The overview presents the main public policies in the different countries of the EU and their main impact. An objective was to see if these policies have resulted in more employment, more jobs, in a reduction of informal jobs, and also if these policies are efficient from a cost-benefit point of view. Our first conclusion is that it is observed in the different countries that have implemented measures for the domestic sector. It is observed that more jobs have been created thanks to these public policies, and in the same time, it has been observed that there has been a reduction of informality in the sector. So we can directly move to the slide. Okay, thank you. To this slide, which presents a few results in terms of job creation in a series of countries. We can see, for instance, that from the studies that IDEA Consult has done last year, that in Belgium, the titre service is very efficient in terms of job creation. In Denmark, a quite old program resulted in almost 4,000 full-time workers created. This scheme is now over in this country. In Finland, it is quite interesting because the main public policies associates tax deductions in the housework sector with tax deduction in the renovation sectors. And the net effect estimated are 4,600 full-time jobs, but mainly in the renovation sectors. In France, more than 300,000 jobs have been created since the launching of a big development plan in the sector, but this only corresponds to 50,000 full-time jobs. This gives you an idea of the very short working times in France, and this is also true for the other countries. So when one looks at the job creation, it is also important to take into account the quality of jobs, and the first issue is the very low working times in the sector. You can see from this slide that in terms of reduction of informal work, some estimates conclude in very positive outcomes. For instance, two results. In Finland, it is estimated that the share of informality has diminished from 60% to 25%, or in France from 50% to 30%. In Belgium, it is estimated also that almost all the domestic services in the titre service system were not declared before. In terms of cost-benefit analysis, it is very important that the public debate be well informed about the cost, but also the benefits, the returns of these policies, because these policies are very costly. They are over 1 billion euros in Sweden or Belgium, and even over 6 billion euros in France. These are very costly measures. There are a series of propositions, estimates of the impact effect. The study from IDEA concludes in a reduction by 45% of the gross cost when you integrate some earn-back effects, like, for instance, people who get back to job and who pay social contributions. In Sweden, it has been estimated that each euro spent in the housework sector through tax deductions would be reimbursed in an equal part. There is a neutral effect. In France, an estimate concludes in very positive earn-back effects, but to my view, this methodology is subject to some controversies. And this is an important fact, that it is very hard to know whether these differences are due to real differences in the cost and efficiency of these measures, or if these differences are just due to differences in methodology. And there is no uncontroversial methodology here. Finally, in terms of the cost of each job created, here again it is very difficult to know whether the differences are due to different methodologies or differences in the real cost of these measures. The cost of each job created can be measured in gross terms or in net terms, and this will rank from 3,000 euros in Belgium in terms of net cost to more than to around 10,000 to around 30,000 euros in France. You have big intervals here, and this shows that this is very hard to measure. But in any case, this calls for further studies and evaluations. Finally, a last point: when one is interested with the efficiency of this measure, it is also important to take into account the fairness, because these public spendings represent high costs, and it is important to know whether these policies are fair or not, and to see to whom they have benefited most. And a first and convergent result from Finland, France, or Sweden is that tax deductions mostly benefit to the highest income households. Sorry, I forgot to pass this slide. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you. No, the floor is yours if you have questions.
Moi, je voulais demander, par exemple, en Belgique, les allocations de chômage sont illimitées dans le temps. C'est peut-être ce qui explique ce résultat pour la Belgique. Parce que finalement, qu'est-ce qu'on compare alors Oui, effectivement. Donc les différences entre pays, justement, sont liées, comme je l'ai dit dans la présentation aussi, au niveau différent de paiement d'allocation. Et la durée, effectivement, la Belgique, c'est un des seuls pays où la durée est limitée dans le temps. Mais ce qu'il y a, c'est qu'on a vraiment les chiffres qu'on utilise sont vraiment les montants qui ont été payés en 2010 dans chacun des pays et le nombre de bénéficiaires exact. Donc c'est une moyenne en fait, et donc peu importe combien de temps la personne est restée au chômage en 2010, c'est une moyenne par travailleur qui se base sur les montants réels. Et effectivement, les différentes moyennes s'expliquent justement par les différentes spécificités entre pays. Dans certains pays, il y a deux systèmes, un système d'assurance et un système d'assistance, où à partir d'un certain moment, on tombe sur le système d'assistance, et donc il y a des moyennes plus faibles. Effectivement, il faut tenir compte de ces spécificités par pays.
Est-ce qu'on sait évaluer le temps partiel subi du temps partiel choisi? Parce que souvent, il y a des femmes ou des personnes, on va dire, et qui souhaitent simplement un temps partiel parce qu'ils ont des enfants à garder, etc. Donc, on dit effectivement qu'il y a une part en termes de création d'emplois en full-time equivalent, en temps plein équivalent. Voilà. Mais moi, ce qui est intéressant, c'est de savoir ce qui vraiment, les gens qui voudraient travailler plus, ça représente quoi comme proportion entre temps partiel choisi et temps partiel subi?
Je vais me permettre de répondre. En fait, j'ai une double casquette aujourd'hui. D'un côté, on a fait l'étude sur donc le coût du non-emploi, mais de l'autre côté, on a également, on évalue depuis 8 ans d'affilée les titres-services en Belgique. Donc c'est le système des services à la personne en Belgique. Et donc dans ces différentes évaluations, on a analysé cette question aussi. Donc je peux vous donner un chiffre exact. On sait qu'en Belgique, il y a 84% des travailleuses qui sont, je parle de travailleuses parce qu'elles sont majoritairement femmes, qui sont contentes du nombre d'heures travaillées. Et en moyenne en Belgique, c'est 22 heures de travail par semaine. Et donc c'est un choix. Et effectivement, comme vous dites, généralement ce sont des femmes qui ont une vie familiale, donc des enfants, etc. Souvent des femmes seules aussi, et qui choisissent de travailler ce nombre d'heures pour pouvoir concilier les deux. Ce qu'il y a aussi, c'est que c'est un travail assez pénible, et l'effectuer 38 heures d'affilée, pendant une semaine, 8 heures par jour, c'est assez pénible, et donc c'est souvent un choix pour la majorité des femmes. En tout cas, c'est pour la Belgique, je ne sais pas ce qu'il en est pour les autres pays.
Je sais que le chiffre existe pour la France, je ne l'ai pas en tête, mais je l'ai quelque part. Un complément, c'est que une heure de travail dans les services à la personne, c'est difficile de la rendre équivalente à une heure de travail dans un autre secteur. Puisque une heure de travail effectif au domicile de quelqu'un, ça implique des déplacements, des temps morts, puisque vous avez un rendez-vous à 14h, puis peut-être un rendez-vous à 16h. Des études françaises ont estimé qu'une heure de travail effectif correspond à 1h20 et quelques, 1h25 de temps contraint. Et donc, les temps sont en effet partiels en France. La moyenne est de 25 heures par semaine, quelque chose comme ça. Mais ça correspond en fait à beaucoup plus de temps sous l'emprise du travail. Ça correspond presque à un temps plein. Et les services à la personne, ça c'est assez théorique comme remarque, mais invite à réinterroger la norme du temps plein dans nos sociétés. Un temps plein, ce n'est pas forcément 35 heures effectifs dans les domiciles. Ça peut être beaucoup moins. Il y a d'autres métiers où le temps plein ne correspond pas à 35 ou 39 heures. Par exemple, les professeurs dans l'éducation ou les éboueurs ont des temps pleins, sont payés à temps plein, mais font un temps effectif de ramassage des poubelles ou de présence devant une classe d'école inférieur, une vingtaine ou 25 ou 30 heures. C'est une vraie question qui doit être posée. Qu'est-ce qu'une heure de travail dans ces services, dans ces secteurs?
Et la différence, c'est le multi-emploi. C'est-à-dire que autant l'éboueur, il a un seul employeur, oui. Alors que là, la contrainte, c'est le multi-emploi, et donc effectivement, c'est transport subis.
L'éboueur va bénéficier d'arrangements collectifs très intéressants, puisque la négociation sociale va permettre de rendre équivalente son temps de travail effectif avec ce qu'il est payé. Dans ces services-là, souvent la personne, l'intervenante à domicile, va subir elle-même la responsabilité. C'est quasiment un travailleur indépendant, et le coût de ces multiples interventions est sur ses épaules.
Je voudrais juste intervenir parce que j'ai entendu un mot, le transport subi. Je voulais quand même ajouter quelque chose pour la Belgique. Donc on a dans nos différentes évaluations, on fait des enquêtes auprès des travailleuses et on a également demandé pourquoi est-ce qu'elles travaillaient dans le système. Et une des réponses, c'est justement parce qu'elles savent, enfin grâce au système, elles peuvent travailler proche de leur domicile. Et donc on parle de transport subi, mais il y a quand même, il faut tenir compte de ça aussi. Justement, les travailleuses travaillent dans les ménages et justement l'employeur, enfin en Belgique c'est aussi un système différent, c'est un système triangulaire avec une entreprise voilà, qui envoie la personne auprès des domiciles, et ben, ils essaient quand même de tenir compte de cet aspect-là, donc voilà, de trouver des clientes qui sont dans l'environnement. Bon, c'est pas toujours évident, parce que c'est sûr qu'il y a toujours un mismatch entre là où habitent les travailleuses, les quartiers où elles habitent, et les quartiers, je dirais, plus aisés, où il y a une demande de ce type. Mais en tout cas, c'est quand même un des arguments pour travailler dans le système.
Donc, que le système de titre-service est un système qui a bien fonctionné. Et vous faites le parallèle entre le coût d'un emploi et le coût de ce système-là. Mais est-ce qu'il y a encore une demande suffisante en Belgique? Parce que le système de titre-service, il n'y a pas un
Je ne vais pas uniquement parler de la Belgique, mais si on regarde les activités qui sont liées au nettoyage, mais ça peut être le repassage, mais ça peut aller plus loin aussi, donc je vais me permettre de dépasser le cadre belge en parlant également de l'aide aux personnes âgées, à l'accompagnement des personnes âgées, y compris des enfants. C'est un secteur qui va être en pleine évolution, positif. Simplement parce qu'on peut toujours parler d'estimation, est-ce que la crise va s'arrêter demain ou après-demain? Il y a une crise qu'on va avoir, c'est la crise du vieillissement. Et ça va impliquer deux éléments importants. C'est que le besoin de réconciliation, vie famille, vie professionnelle, va être exacerbé à l'avenir, puisque de plus en plus de femmes seront appelées sur le marché du travail. Et la population âgée, notamment celle de plus de 85 ans, va être en très forte croissance. Donc on va avoir de plus en plus de besoins, il faudra trouver des solutions. Alors ça, c'est une manière d'envisager la solution. On peut penser aussi à des homes pour personnes âgées, à différentes choses. Mais on va voir une situation qui va quand même être étonnante, c'est de voir des besoins croissants, notamment des personnes âgées, et de moins en moins de possibilités d'y répondre au niveau de la famille, parce qu'il va y avoir de plus en plus de pression en termes de réconciliation, vie de famille, vie professionnelle. Donc il y a un véritable enjeu de société qui est devant nous. Je crois que parfois dans les débats, on doit s'imaginer peut-être, quand on parle d'emploi, qu'on a l'arbre de la crise économique devant nous, mais qui cache peut-être la forêt de la crise démographique qui est derrière, qu'il va falloir gérer, mais qui ne sont pas que des problèmes, qui sont aussi des opportunités immenses en termes de création d'emplois, de meilleure cohésion et peut-être insertion sociale, mais aussi de nouveaux marchés. Durant la conférence, il y a une section qui va être dédiée à tout ce qui est nouvelles technologies, y compris à la robotique. Il y a un monde qui s'ouvre devant nous, et je crois qu'il faut prendre en compte pour l'avenir.
Oui, moi je voulais juste ajouter que ça soit par exemple en Belgique ou en France où le système est déjà très développé, on est confronté à un problème de rétention des travailleurs, un problème de manque de travailleurs qualifiés. Donc se pose aussi pour ce secteur la question des conditions de travail, de la professionnalisation, parce que ce secteur doit aussi être attractif pour les travailleurs.
Donc n'hésitez pas à venir descendre un étage.
Bah écoutez, je vous remercie tous.